CN Inside the Studio is proudly sponsored by F&M Bank.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to CN Inside the Studio. I'm Sarah Kittle, and I'm here with Ronia Shamona, who is an anchor, a host, and a producer at Fox 2. Welcome, Ronia.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, we're excited to have you here as well. A personality in our studio is always a good thing.
Oh, the personalities are everywhere.
So, Fox 2. You're actually on Fox 2 a lot, as we see lately. Take us back to the beginning. What started your interest in broadcasting?
Well, I just was that little girl that would take my hairbrush, the round hairbrush, and I would literally walk around the house acting like I was reporting live from wherever. And I just had this love for TV, this love for news, but also a love for handling investigations. It started so young. And so I went to college thinking I was going into criminal justice and I was going to be some sort of forensic unit investigator. And then 3 years in, I thought, I think there's more to do here, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet. And I remember meeting with an advisor, and the advisor said, "You're just a good speaker. There's something about you." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" They're like, "Have you ever thought about broadcast television?" And I said, coincidentally, when I was a little girl, I used to always walk around acting like I was a reporter. And she said, "I think that's what you need to do. You can still do the criminal justice and take it into an investigative world." And I said, "Okay, you know what? I like that idea." So Wayne State did not offer a broadcast journalism degree. So at that time, I decided, let me find another school to go and learn this. And I remember doing some research, and the University of Nevada, Las Vegas popped up. And I thought, how do I do this? How do a Chaldean girl who is 18, 19, 20, now thinking of going to another city, let alone Las Vegas? We're talking Sin City here. And so I just remember thinking, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And I had a conversation, very brief conversation with my parents, because I almost didn't want to hear the response. I think I want to do TV and I'm going to switch schools. And my parents almost right away were like, yeah, go for it. And I just was in shock because I thought, oh my God, I never thought they would let me live on my own, let alone in Sin City, which by the way gets a lot of rap, but I love Las Vegas, and to me it was not Sin City. It was a whole different it actually made me who I am. The responsibilities with life and my decisions, Vegas really transformed my life in a great way. So but aside from that, I went to UNLV. It was such a great school. I was a rebel for about a couple of years. And then something hit me, and I just said, I think I need to go back home. And so I just missed the family. I thought I was missing out on events. And I remember calling Wayne State University and saying, I want to come back and just finish my degree there. And they said, well, we only have a journalism program. I said, that's fine, done. So switched over, finished at Wayne State. So now my college took 7 years because I was switching so many times and paying all these non-residential fees. But overall, I was happy to be back home, finish at Wayne State. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to intern at Fox 2. And I remember walking through those doors and seeing Huel Perkins, and my heart rate just went through the roof. And I thought, wow, I'm here. And I'm standing next to these people that I was watching and looking at and thinking, how do they do it? How did they become this? And so the journey started there, ended up in Lansing as a producer. Loved working in Lansing. I was at WILX for a few years, which is also Fox 47. Line produced at the station at the time. It was so long ago. It was almost 20 years ago. So it was a tape to tape production. I mean, I would remember sitting there and rolling the tape and rewinding and playing here.
So much since then.
Everything has changed. And I just remember thinking, those were the days where we were winding and unwinding tapes, and now we're in a digital realm of life, and it's just things are so different. So I remember coming back home after my contract was over in Lansing and thinking, what do I do now? And I had two options. I could apply in Green Bay, Wisconsin, for a reporter and see where that was going to take me, or apply for a producer, go back to Las Vegas. Those were the two positions that stood out the most when I checked online. And I thought, I think I want to go back to Vegas. And I ended up doing that. And Vegas hired me on the spot. They flew me out. They said, we want you as a producer. You're great. I signed a contract with them, and this was at ABC, the Channel 13 station out there. As soon as I did that, the 2-year contract turned into 6 years at ABC News. It was a fantastic experience. I was on the morning show, which means I was nocturnal for 6 years. But it taught me resilience. It taught me grit. It taught me that, the mornings were this almost like this positive news of the day. Vegas news is so different. It was more entertainment. What's happening on the Strip? Where are the tourists going? And it changed my whole perspective, because here I was thinking forensics and criminal justice and trying to handle investigations into entertainment. And so I thought, I think I found a new wave of television. And I did a few reality TV shows. I did a few other things that was outside of news, but more Hollywoodish. And I loved it. So then I started doing a lot more red carpet events, and it just became
You were producing
fun.
this whole time.
Producing, but also now trying to be casted in other roles. And then I thought, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, because I also met somebody and I was starting a family. And so I thought, okay, how do I balance all of this? Because now I sleep 3 hours a day. I go to work at 2 a.m. I'm producing the morning show. I'm also trying to be casted in a reality TV show, which we did, I think, 6 tapings. And then I want to be a mom. How does this all happen? And I said, I'm in my late 20s. I think it's time I'm going to skip almost half of this and be a mom. And so I ended up going through that phase of my life. And I remember I still had the morning show. So that was still there. I had my son in 2014. And I just remember thinking, I'm so tired. This is just overwhelming. Son comes into the world, everything's phenomenal. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm just going to go for a second child right now. So my daughter comes 2 years later. And at that point, I thought, there's no way any job, no matter how much I love what I do, that I was going to let work take precedence and priority over family. So I ended up taking 6 years off and being a mom. And it was a chance that I took, thinking, I don't know if I'll ever go back to television. But at the same time, I said, it's the chance I have to take. So I was very fortunate to spend 6 years at home. My kids were incredible. We just had a lot of fun. And so I just remember 2020, January of 2020, and my son was now in kindergarten, I believe, it was kindergarten or preschool. My daughter was in like a preschool program. And I thought, okay, maybe I could just find a way to get back into work. And do it gradually. So I contacted Fox 5 in Las Vegas, and I was asking them if they needed any help. And of course, it was like, absolutely. And I got hired right away, March 13th, 2020. And got my laptop, and they asked me what I was going to do, what my experience was. I said I could line produce, I could do whatever you want me to do. I report. I've been on air at that point. They said, just take the laptop home. We'll figure it out. I said, no problem. That was, I think, a Friday or a Thursday. I can't remember. Then Monday, March 16th, 2020 hits. The entire world shuts down. COVID is happening now. And I thought, oh, my gosh, am I losing my job at this point? Because what do I do? And they call me and they say, you're going to have to do all this from home. From home? I'm not a technical person. How am I doing this from home? So we made it happen. I don't really remember how, other than here's my laptop and I have a bunch of screens in front of me and I'm going to produce and create a show from home. I did that for 6 months. It was great. And then I just remember thinking, you know what, COVID hit. I'm in Las Vegas. My family's in Michigan. How do I make sure my family's okay? And with coronavirus, you're almost worried anything can happen. So I ended up saying, you know what, I think it's time to move back home. I remember telling Fox, I got to go. I got to go back home because I don't know what's happening in this world and I can't take the chance. My parents need me. My family needs me. And I remember them saying, take the laptop, work from there. And I said, I'm going to work in a Las Vegas newsroom from Michigan. And that's when I knew something was different. And I did it. I did it for a few months. I just didn't like it. I felt like I was disconnected. So I ended up putting in my notice, getting a job at Fox 2 after. I remember telling Fox 2, I think we got to launch digital. Digital is very big. Streaming is the new era of the world. And I remember this was so long ago. This was, 5+ years ago. And Fox said, well, help us build it. And so I created segments. Segments turned into shows, and now that's where I'm at. It's hosting, anchoring, producing, online streaming. I'm on Roku, Tubi, Apple TV, Fox local apps all over the country, and it's fun. It's definitely fun.
That is quite a path,
Yeah.
Ronia.
It's a very long story.
Well, it sounds
Yeah.
like you are extremely adaptable,
Yes.
always evolving,
Yes.
and forward thinking, too.
Oh,
We were
for
talking
sure.
about the digital, so I think Fox 2 is lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Was there a defining moment when you knew that this was the career you wanted to pursue?
As far as defining moment, I don't think anything specific hit me. But what I could say is in the last few years, listening to people and the changes they want to see in the world, and being connected with certain people, whether it's faith-based, entrepreneurs, whether it's mentors of any sort, whether it's life coaches, I see a new wave right now of delivering news. I see a way of helping people past the here's what's happening in the world. And I think that's where my new love is for producing and doing these segments. So yes, I still have the news side of things, but I think right now I would say that I almost feel like God has given me a platform to change people's lives or to be the help that they might need. Maybe the words that they need to hear to amplify their day and make them feel better.
That's lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
I think now too, they're looking for something to do. They're looking for direction. A lot of people are frustrated, especially, with the way things are right now, economy, politics, all of that. They're looking for, like, what can we do? What can we do? So I
It's
think
a tough world.
Yeah, you do a real service. What's been the biggest challenge for you working in television news?
I think the biggest challenge started early. I made the decision to become a producer, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. My challenge was to prove to the bosses that there's more that I could do than just producing. So it's really hard finding a producer these days. So a lot of times in any network, once they lock in a producer, they're like, this is great. But then it's like you almost want to be the hybrid. You want to be the host, the anchor, and the producer. So the biggest challenge was proving that you could do it all. And I'm still trying to make those points across. But, I get it. Even with Fox Corporate, sometimes there's a fine line between anchoring and hosting and then producing. And I think it's a lot of work to do all. But it's certainly rewarding when you can balance a whole show from creation all the way through, the closing.
Yeah, you're the whole package, Ronia.
Yeah, try to be.
What's a story that you've covered that stayed with you long after?
I would not say it's something specific. I would say anytime I'm covering anything involving children, after being a mom, stories hit a lot different. Whether it's a missing child or someone that was hurt in an incident, I'm one of those people that almost wants to maintain a relationship with the families and find a way to help them in any way to keep their stories alive, especially when it comes to a missing child. I think those are the ones that really hit hard. I know we had a story here locally where a girl had gone missing several years ago. Every time there is a body that comes up, that turns up somewhere, I'm always just like, is that her? Is it going to be her? Not I want the parents to have closure. So those are the stories that really hit me hard.
Parenthood really changes your perspective.
It
for
really
sure.
does.
Television can be unpredictable. What's your most memorable on-air moment?
Ooh. I don't.
You haven't been attacked by any wild animals?
No. We're so unscripted and raw. So for me, everything is just different. I don't know if I can ever, and maybe for a viewer, when they're watching, they can say, oh my gosh, what just happened on air? For me, it's just being yourself. So I don't really have a memorable on-air moment other than sometimes you just have that one person that you're interviewing and you're like, I don't know where this is going. And you got to wrap it because you're like, maybe this is not the time to do this interview. But, I've never had a crazy moment. Maybe it's time.
Yeah.
Maybe I need one.
Yet. You haven't had a crazy moment yet. How's the news business changed? You talked a little bit about the digital. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
We are constantly evolving. From the moment I stepped into news in 2007 until now, it keeps changing, and you keep having to be part of the change. So whether we went from tape to tape to using, what were those called? Those MP3s or CDs or DVDs. I mean, there's all ways of evolving, right? Even cameras, everything has gone automated. Our mics, our audio has gone automated. And now with streaming, that's now the new era, right? So we keep hearing about how we need to stay on top of things because now we're in a world where it's not just Fox News anchors, versus ABC anchors versus, NBC. Now we're versus influencers. Everyone can be a journalist these days. If you think about it, all you need is this.
Yep.
And you can walk around and film and record. The thing is I always say journalistic integrity will always outdo anyone that is just maybe out there. And because I think as a journalist, you just know when to cover the who, what, where, when, why, and make sure that you have the facts as opposed to someone who might just be a social media. And I love social media. I used to have followers and I deleted my account so many times. And now I'm like, I regret all of it because I didn't know it was going to be what it is today. And now we're implementing this whole Fox and social media and YouTube and TikTok. So I'm trying to bring all that into my shows and it seems to be working. So I guess that's the new era.
Yeah, it's a new, and then AI brings something into it too. I don't
man,
even know.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
I love using AI for certain things. I also dislike it, and I'll tell you why. I think I've been hearing from some people saying, "Well, my boss said use AI to help you with the script." It's not always accurate. I've seen the errors, and so there's also the element of a human approach, which is so different. I want to connect with people on a human level, and I think it's a little bit too robotic for me. Of course, there's always good and bad things, right, with everything.
Right.
So we'll see where it ends up, but I don't know if I could trust it. I always say there's a conspiracy with that thing.
I know as a journalist, you take classes in like ethics and morality and things like that. So
you question it all.
Well, and I think probably the same thing as when computers first, became everyday thing for people. It was garbage in, garbage out. It's kind of the same thing with AI, isn't it?
It is. Mm-hmm. You go through these phases and you just don't know. I mean, we went through AOL and .com bubble, and look at where we're at.
I know, and we don't really know what's
where
coming.
We're going. Yeah, exactly.
That's the scariest part.
Humanoids. I mean, that was probably one of my interesting interviews. Actually, maybe now that you have a memorable moment, I was being chased by a humanoid in the newsroom, and it backhanded me in the face. So
what?
It was pretty interesting. Yeah. I was doing an interview with a robot, and it just kind of got out of control, but it backhanded me. And it was pretty funny at the time. But just to know that certain things are not always controllable, even though there's someone behind the controller, right?
That is really scary. What prompted it to backhand you?
I think just maybe wrong button or wrong remote. I don't know, but it was so,
Wasn't nothing you said. Or,
and I'm fine. Nothing I said, nothing triggered anything, and certainly no damage. But it was just funny, and it was unpredictable to see this robot, just running around the newsroom. It was just, I thought, where's life going?
that is crazy.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
What skills do you think are most important for young journalists who are entering the industry today? Certainly adaptability would be
I was just
something,
going to say, the first word that came to mind was being able to adapt, constantly evolving, constantly being up against somebody or a corporation or an influencer or whatever it is. I mean, you're almost fighting battles all the time to be mainstream media. And you also don't want to recreate yourself into somebody else just to be out there either. I think the one big thing I've always maintained is my authenticity. I remember when I got into this business, I was told I had an accent and to try to fix it. I said, this is who I am. I think my accent is me, and I don't need to be the typical newscaster. And I remember, the clothing, the hair, like everything is talked. I remember being talked about my makeup and what I should do. Authenticity is a very big thing for me. So I'm not one to say this is me and just take it or leave it. No, absolutely not. I do like to hear what you think. What I will say is there's a reason why people connect with you, whether it's integrity, being yourself, or, people being able to trust you. And I think if you could show people this is who I am, and yeah, I've battled a lot of things, whether it's my accent or my attire, I think I can relate to people with the way I am.
Yeah, and authenticity is uniquely human. So.
Absolutely.
Did your cultural background influence your decision to choose broadcasting?
I think in many ways it actually kind of may have affected my decision to try, maybe not do it. And I'll tell you why. I think growing up, it was hard to understand that you would leave the house for this industry. A lot of times when you're growing up in a Chaldean home, you don't leave until you're married. So I never thought that I could just jump up and get an apartment at 20 and be on my own in this community. But my parents really understood that even when I was 20, I had the mentality of, someone who was in their 40s, who's done it all. And now that I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was such a child and I didn't know what I was doing and what was I thinking? And how did I trust people? But I think God works in mysterious ways, and I think you have a placement for a reason. And so the community now, I would say, is so different, so welcoming, so amazing. My family obviously played a big role. And I think just that belief that if you could almost take something that you didn't think was doable and turn it into a doable, you almost have that sense of gratification, and I think that's the biggest thing that I love today. So I'm glad I'm back. I'm glad I'm back and part of the community.
Me too.
Yeah, there was a disconnect for
people
so
glad.
long. Yeah, 2 decades, and now I'm like, finally, I get to be with our people.
I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about a reality show.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh man, this is the one conversation. It's tough to unfold. There's so much to unpack, but I'll unpack some of it. So I was asked to be a cast member in I think it was called Sin City Socialites. It's been that long. We taped multiple episodes. And then I remember the executive producer setting up a problem that was going to, in a sense, make my reputation look bad. And I just thought, you know what, this is not good. I'm a journalist. I work in television. I don't want people to look at me and say, what happened? And yes,
So reality TV, a lot of it is scripted. I know people think it's reality. No, producers do set you up for a lot of things. I remember saying that I didn't like the script, even though there was no script. And I said I wasn't going to be part of this. And I think that's the first time that I had stood up for myself in TV. And I said, this is not something I'm comfortable doing. And then all of a sudden, the producers started kind of going in attack mode. And and it was pretty scary. And I thought, okay, wait a minute. You can't tell me to do something that I don't want to do. And so she started threatening to sue, that I was going against the contract. And I said, okay, sue me then. Because at this point, like I always say, my integrity means a lot more to me than this show. And at the time, when you get into reality TV, really, it's not so much about there's not much money to be made in the beginning. It's usually after several seasons. But I just thought, I don't care. She can come after me. I have nothing to lose at this point. And the entire cast ended up backing me up, and the entire cast quit after, I think, 6 tapings. And she didn't come after us. But I think you just don't know. I didn't want to hurt anybody. I didn't want to make anyone feel like they were inferior. This wasn't me. So now, recently, I was approached to do some reality TV. This time it's food related. So I thought, I don't mind food. I love food. And culturally, we all know the Chaldean community. We're big in food.
Family.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Everything revolves around food. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll do that, but let me see the contract. Let me see what I need to do. What do I need to eat? Is there going to be any issues? So now I'm a lot more receptive.
So we might see you on a reality show?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I always say maybe.
Why do you think representation in media matters?
Ooh. On a corporate level, people understanding?
I guess more I'm talking about as a Chaldean and as a woman representing.
There is so much, right? So I think there's a few things. I'm a single mom of 2, a devoted mother. That's my biggest duty. And then, of course, everything else comes after. I think for a lot of people watching, I think they can relate to me. I actually get a lot of DMs and messages from moms, from dads too, saying, I watched your segment and it really changed my day. And I think representation in that way is a reward. And I did a lot of women's empowerment. In fact, I was involved in a lot of events where we do a empowering moms movement. I've emceed a lot of those events. I always like taking part in that because I feel like, especially nowadays, moms are going through so much. We're trying to do it all.
So much more expected of them, yeah.
What's expected, financially burdened. I mean, our daily routines are out of control, and we're trying to do it all. And I always say, and I say this on air a lot too, we went through this boss babe era and hashtag boss babe. And I have nothing against it at all. I actually, I loved it at the time. I was thinking,
you are a boss babe.
I can do it all, right? But sometimes the most rewarding moments are the times when I'm sitting on that couch and my daughter is next to me, my son's next to me, and we're just hanging out and laughing. We're not even doing anything. So, I think the reward of seeing people understand that it's okay if there's failure. It's okay if you can't do it all. It's okay if there's a little bit of a financial burden, because sometimes all those moments are going to make you appreciate all the other little moments that you didn't think were that important. Because if everything was working fine and you're in this element of life and you're just doing it all and everything's working out fine, I mean, you might not take those little moments and think, wow, these are the most incredible things in life. Something as simple as a bike ride with your son and or watching your son play hockey. Every time my son plays hockey and he scores, he has to look over and give me like a thumbs up with his gloves.
And the fact that you're there
and I'm like,
matters,
yeah.
Right?
And I'm like, he has to make sure mom's standing. Yeah, I'm a hockey mom. I'm standing up and I'm giving him a thumbs up. those are the moments that matter most. And I love that parents can relate to that. I just started another movement on my air, on my shows, where I'm talking a lot about men's mental health, because it's not just women.
Oh, yeah.
Men are dealing with a lot these days. And I've had several friends reach out in the TV industry that are really well-known celebrities saying, I'm glad you said this, because I feel like I'm in the limelight and I have to do it all. And I don't. And I said, no, you don't. You appreciate a lot of the other things when you're not doing it all. That's very big for me.
That is a big thing. And mental health is, especially since 2020, is just such a huge thing. And it's something that needs to be more part of everyday conversation.
Absolutely. It's a tough world we live in.
As someone that covers Metro Detroit every day, what are some of the stories that you think deserve more coverage?
I think Detroit has a lot of unique people. We are hardworking, whether it's the auto industry, whether it's business entrepreneurs. I mean, we have some incredible people here. And one of my favorites is spotlighting all these people that are doing these amazing things. Recently, I did an interview with a person who's created prosthetics that fit perfectly on kids, adults. I just thought, how amazing that this Detroiter has this company that's creating prosthetics for, this little 8-year-old that just wanted to be able to walk. So those are the things that I love the most, right? Also, I think Detroit has gone through such revitalization in the last, 10 years. I remember the 2008 era affected a lot of us. Now I love highlighting how amazing our city is. It's bringing tourists in. We're part of the Michelin star, right? So all of a sudden, we're like the new Miami. I mean, I know we don't have the beaches and all that, but wow, what's going on with our city? So I love highlighting that, because for me, when I left the city, it wasn't this. And so coming back and seeing all the amazing restaurants, the ambiance, it's just phenomenal.
Chaldeans have a big part of that.
They
too.
sure do,
Yeah.
which I absolutely love. I know Aurora is opening in downtown right now. I was like, wow, just to see all these transitions, it's incredible.
It really is. It really is. And real estate development too. Chaldean's a big part of that. So,
huge.
Yeah.
Just to see what we've done as far as, the revitalization, not just in our city, but Metro Detroit. It's incredible.
So I saw on your Instagram you were talking about your playlist and how diverse it is. How has that diversity influenced your reporting?
Being relatable. I think it's funny because a lot of people reach out to me. I know, right? Look, I love all different kinds of music. But being able to adapt to the culture, I think, is just a great thing. And I think living in Las Vegas changed a lot of that for me, because not only did I now learn the Hispanic Latino community and their culture, their music, which I absolutely love, but then it also gave me that refresher of how much I loved my community, our music, the Chaldean music, the Chaldean weddings, the food, everything here was missed when I was out there. So now when I'm back here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love going to Dream Market. I don't know if you've ever been. I'm like,
oh yeah.
I'm like, I got to get everything on this menu. And just being part of that, I think that's the biggest thing, is being in another part of the country and missing what was here. And now being back here, I'm like, this is incredible. Even our church, I have to say, I go to Holy Martyrs every Sunday, at least when I wake up. Just won't tell people that. No, but I try to go every Sunday. Just going to our church, it's such a different feeling. And I say that because I genuinely love everything start to finish. Our hymns, our prayers, even just seeing the people in our community. It's so different than being in another part of the country and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not familiar with anybody here. We're not using the Chaldean prayers and all that stuff, to the point where when I take my kids now outside of the Chaldean church to another church, they'll say, Mom, can we go back to the Chaldean church? We want to sing Kadisha. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, absolutely. So now it's like, it's become a thing. I'm like, my kids love this. And my son's like, even the bread's better. I'm like, really? I didn't know there was a difference. But
It's
all right.
funny. That's funny. He's pointing it out. We were talking a little bit earlier about Johnny Mansour and
Yeah.
Juju Ballo and the two Chaldean boxers. Well, I interviewed Johnny, and he said in California, the only places that Chaldeans gather in numbers and big numbers is in church.
Surprising.
So when they came here, and they went to Shenandoah, and they came here to the cultural center, and they were just blown away by how organized, how integral, I guess, the Chaldean community is here to Metro Detroit.
Absolutely. I mean, just to see what has been built to showcase our community, it's amazing. It's so spectacular knowing we have a library coming to showcase all this. I love this. I've been part of the events over the last few months.
You were at the Chaldean Marker.
I
Yeah,
was
thanks for that. Yeah.
covering the plaque that was unveiled. I just think it's so incredible because we all have so many memories here. A lot of people didn't even know I had, a little bit of a stay in Detroit. I know I was only a few months old when we moved out, but, my grandpa lived in Detroit. My uncles lived in Detroit. So to see that transition.
Were they actually in Chaldean Town?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Annan Street was the street. And so it's just so rewarding to see that not only have we built all this, but we're honoring the legacy. The first people that were here to start all this, and how we've kept the stories alive, the books, the library coming, the fact that we've done all this, it's unimaginable. Certainly rewarding, though.
It is. I like to say, as somebody who grew up Catholic, and the schools and the churches that I went to growing up are all now closed.
Yeah.
I feel like the Chaldean community really, the Chaldean church is kind of saving the Catholic Church here in Detroit, at least.
It's certainly interesting. And actually, my family had local ties with the Chaldean Church on 7 Mile. My brother-in-law's uncle is the one who started it all. So when I was called to do that story, it was a full circle moment. Here I am standing in front of the church that is part of the family where I was baptized. And now I'm talking about a plaque being placed right here to honor everyone and all the entrepreneurs, all the immigrants that started here. And look at where we're at now.
All the sacrifices that they made.
Sacrifices, absolutely. So just to see all that, it was an incredible moment. I actually stood there and just did a good look and almost visioned it all happening, the bakeries, the meat shops, the coffee shops, just for a moment, just remembering
Smell
all
it
those
and
days.
hear it. And yeah.
It's amazing.
It really is. So just on a different subject, the news industry can be emotionally draining and demanding. What do you do to keep your spirits up?
I think that's why I implement a lot of the positive segments I do, because there's a way to transition from all the heartbreak and the tragedies into what can we do to lighten the mood. I think that's a very big thing for me. And sometimes I can't do it, right? Sometimes we do have breaking news and it's, you can't just...
Yeah, it's devastating.
You can't go into fluff after, right? I think the biggest thing is on my drive home, I just try to find moments to pray for those that I had on the show, or just to, you almost, I don't want to say disconnect work from home, but you have to find a way to do that. I think the gym is a big way for me to handle a lot of that, because I go to the gym and now I'm playing music and I'm amped and ready to go, right? Or even just going to my son's hockey game, watching my daughter dance or do gymnastics. I think all of that changes the mood and the vibe. It's just so difficult as a mom, because a lot of the stories hit hard and they hit home. And so as much as I like to say, as a journalist, as a host, as an anchor, we try to find ways to disconnect, it's still impossible.
Yeah.
You just can't. Emotionally, you can't.
Have you ever had a moment on air where you were overcome with emotion?
There's been a few times that I've had to just kind of take a moment to almost silence myself. It just happened recently. I had a dad on Father's Day come in. I remember Father's Day, we had a discussion. We always have a morning meeting to discuss the stories of the day. Our morning meeting consisted of, it's Father's Day, let's talk to all the dads that are doing something, or all the kids that are doing something for their dads. I said, guys, hold on 1 second. What about the people that have lost their dads? We got to think about them. What about the dads that have lost their children? They can't celebrate Father's Day the way they do. And I remember thinking, why don't we hear from someone who's lost? Let's try to connect on that level and see what they're doing to help maybe other dads or other children that have lost their loved ones. And I had a dad come on the show who had lost their son to gun violence. And I just remember he just kept holding back the tears. And he was trying to help other dads. I know, it's so tough. It's so hard when you hear their stories, and to know that he lost his son for the most just ridiculous situation. And now he's turning his moment of grief into hope for other dads, and how he works with the community. I just kept looking at him thinking, I'm going to break down on air. And I tried to hold my composure. It was really hard. I just remember I got to go to break. I went to break and I just gave him a hug and we sobbed. It was that hard. And I gave him a hug, and it was a long lasting hug. And I said, you are an incredible person, because you could easily just shut down and not be able to move on with your day. And now you're turning this moment into something, to help others. Those are the moments that I never forget. And I almost wish I could just always stay in connection with these people, because I almost feel like they become family to you, because you're like, I care so much about them that I want to check on them. It's hard.
One of the first articles that I wrote for the Chaldean News was about the Mansours, John and Ann Mansour, and that really stuck with me.
It still breaks my heart.
They're honoring John at the CCF Gala this year.
I mean,
for the Strides for Seminarians, because that's taking something that it's got to be devastating. Like,
I can't.
As a parent, you think, how do you even go on?
You're almost on a. I can't even relate. It's that difficult. When my kids go out in the water, I always tell them, you got to be careful. This is what happened to this family. And they're all, oh, Mom, we're fine. You're always so blah, blah.
Yeah, you never think it's going to happen to you until it happens.
And, that's the thing. I lost my first cousin drowned at 26. And so I always tell my kids, I don't care if you're 9, I don't care if you're 20, anything can happen, whether it's the water, whether it's a boating incident, whatever it is, you got to be careful. And so stories like that, they really affect you. And even when you're not involved, you're almost so traumatized that you become involved. And so, I'm glad they're honoring him. That's a daily struggle for that family.
You are so empathetic, I can tell, because when you talked about the idea for Father's Day, you're thinking about people, everybody.
Yeah.
You're thinking about
it's
everybody.
So hard.
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
What goals do you still hope to accomplish in your broadcasting career?
Ooh, this one's tough because I'm still working on these goals, right? I just want to lighten the mood. And I think news gets a lot of...
bad news sells, right?
Bad news sells. I get it. And, even we always have meetings and make sure you're covering all the breaking stories. I think there's a few things that I have goals for. One is bringing faith back. I think faith has lost its touch in a sense with television, and whether it's news or television in a sense. I am just intrigued by how many people I've met recently that are faith-based entrepreneurs or faith-based, journalists or, whatever it is. I just think it's incredible that when you have a connection like that, I think you just work differently. So that's definitely something I'm working harder on. As far as goals, I really want to make a change in the world. And I know you hear that a lot. Well, how does that work? My change isn't, maybe it's not something I can do where I'm, jumping to a scene to save somebody, but maybe I can make a change where if someone might have thoughts, negative thoughts, maybe I can change that. Maybe they can tune in and say, you know what, this is what I needed, and now I can accomplish my goals. I think that's why I do what I do. I just became part of this team of people that are mentoring others on how do they make it in life. And in the media world, media can be alarming. A lot of people might not even be ready. Sometimes I'm in my 40s and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Even right now, in the political realm of things, I still question if
There's
I'm
so much
ready.
to know, right?
There's so much to know. And sometimes it's not easy being objective, right? So I say my goal, I don't really know if I have an outline of goals because I create them, I think, on a daily basis. Sometimes I'm just happy I woke up and had my cup of coffee and I could just go about my day. And other times I'm like, this is actually a conversation I had with someone on air when New Year's hit. A lot of people have the conversation of, did you set a New Year's resolution? Right. I said, can I tell you something? I said, what's wrong with just waking up and being grateful that you're here? Why do I have to make a change? Why do I have to reset, refocus, or restart? She said, that's very morbid. I said, really? I said, is it really morbid? Because I look at this and think, I'm here. I made it. I don't look at it like 2026, we're going to change the year. I look at it like 2025, thank you. 2026, thank you.
Right.
Whatever's coming, I'm ready. But it doesn't always have to be a reset. So I don't know. It's hard to say because I am a goal setter, but I'm also very thankful that I'm awake.
Well, the goal setting when the target's always changing,
Yeah,
is difficult.
Yeah.
Right? You got to just keep doing it.
exactly.
Are there any stories or interviews that you still have on your professional bucket list?
Ooh, I don't know. This is a tough one because I do a lot of celebrity interviews. I've interviewed a lot of the Trump family. I don't know if I have any specifics. I'm interviewing a queen coming up in a few weeks. I just like to get to know everybody. I don't ever look at someone and say, oh, she is on this show and I'd love to get her on the show. Because sometimes I might be looking at the person that's a business owner downtown who's been in business for 40 years and still trying to operate, and that might be the best interview I get. So, no, I never think of it like that. I never think I want to interview this person or I
You're
want to
not
get
like, I want to talk to Eminem or
No.
Mary Barra or somebody.
Never. However, I will tell you, when people ask me what is the one interview that you got where you had an oh moment, surprisingly, it wasn't like a politician, like the president or any. It was Akon. When Akon sat in my studio, I thought, oh my gosh, it's Akon. And people think, oh my gosh, out of all people, you were so excited about Akon. Of course. I'm like, I remember listening to the music. I remember having Akon was the jam. And he's sitting, I never thought in a million years.
Fangirling.
Yeah. I'm like, I never thought in a million years that if you asked me 25 years ago, when I was listening to Akon, that he would be coming on my show, I never thought that would ever happen. So yeah, surprisingly, it was Akon to be excited about.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about advice that you might have for somebody who might want to go into journalism, but you were talking about a program. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So there's a program that just launched called Mentor Box. It's a platform where if you need coaching in any way, sometimes just to connect with people to understand how they got into the world that they're in, that's on that platform. I just did a meeting with these incredible people in New York. And they asked me, they said, can you be a part of the team? I said, absolutely. So to be any kind of media coach to help people, I think it's incredible. And I'll tell you why. A lot of times, right now especially, you have social media influencers, you have content creators, you have all these elements that you can get into. But how do you get into media? Because media is still different, right? You're still a journalist. People look at you and they know you're going to give the facts. And so when you start in this industry, you can really get lost. whether it's the position that you start with, whether it's contracts that you sign, whether it's the shift that you take, or whether it's not knowing the industry and how it works. Even something as simple as making the connections, networking. There's so much to break down that people might not know. A lot of people ask me, do you get a lot of your interviews through Fox? No, most of them are actually in my Rolodex of people. It's people I've connected with, I've exchanged numbers with, and I've networked with. And they're even like, even the celebrities? Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't think people understand how important it is to be involved. And if you're not involved and if you're not ready to work, graveyard shift or 12-hour days or put in the work, this is not the job for you.
Right. You're not going to start at a broadcast desk.
Absolutely not. And I'm sure a lot of content creators feel the same way. There's a lot to do, a lot of editing, a lot of, video production. So you really have to make that decision ahead of time. One of the biggest mistakes I think I made in the beginning was only limiting myself to producing, because it did set me off where I was more delayed on doing the on-air work. And it wasn't anything bad. It's actually great, and it's transpired into something incredible where I can launch a show in an hour. But what it does do is people might see you as just a producer. And so I think that's the battle, is you really have to prove that you could do it all, if that's what you want to do.
Okay, I've got a few rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, I host Rapid Fire with Ronia. Yeah, so this is like a reverse.
Okay,
I like it.
Here we go. Coffee or tea?
Coffee, all the way.
Morning news or evening news?
Morning. I need a lighter mood.
Favorite Detroit restaurant?
Ooh, this is a hard one. Adachi. Even though it's not Detroit, does that count?
Yeah, sure.
I love sushi.
What's one word that coworkers would use to describe you?
Spunky. That's been used a lot.
A story you wish you could cover anywhere in the world?
Ooh, tourism. I like covering food and tourism and culture. So does that count?
Oh yeah, you could be
Yeah.
a travel broadcast.
I've been
journalist.
trying to pitch this whole on the road with Ronia for years. I mean, I got to tell you,
Maybe this will help.
I've before the MapQuest days, before you can even go in a map on your phone, I used to sit in my car and go all over the world. But all over the country. And it was just the best moments. Even stopping in little towns that, I used to love ghost towns. Ghost towns were my thing.
Have you ever been to Fayette in the UP?
I think I have, actually. Yeah. It sounds very familiar. When I went to the UP, I didn't do a lot of exploring, so I got to go back. But on the West Coast, there's so many ghost towns because of the mining industry.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The same thing with Fayette.
So that's okay. Well, good to know. Now it's on my list.
One interview you'd love to land, living or deceased?
Ooh, Michael Jackson. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Michael Jackson's dad was my neighbor in Las Vegas.
Really?
We lived in the same building. So Joe Jackson and I would wait for our cars in the morning. I'd see him, and the Jackson family. I've had Jermaine on the show. I've had Tito. They're such good people. They're such a great family. So I'd love to have Michael. Bring him back.
We would all love that
yeah,
too.
Exactly.
Favorite place to unwind in Metro Detroit?
Ooh, is home? Yeah. Does home count?
Home, absolutely.
I mean, I want to unwind on my couch with my kids.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, there you go.
Home.
That's how I unwind.
Okay. Well, I am so grateful that you came here today. Thank you, Ronia Shamona on Fox 2. You can catch her there. What times?
So 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. in the afternoons, Monday through Friday.
Okay, so you can hear her today. She'll be going back to the studio. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like, comment, and subscribe. We're listening.
CN Inside the Studio is proudly sponsored by F&M Bank.